No, I need those. I keep coming up. Is this?
Adam, is Ash coming or is he zooming or not coming at all?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna give him a call.
She said that's a no
I
go.
do enough talking without.
Let me ask.
Hey, folks, could you,
There's another.
hey, could you calm down for a second, please? What was that, Adam?
I can give him a call and find out.
Okay, thanks. If he's coming in person, I got to go down to the front door and unlock it and let him in.
All right, let me give him a call right now. Hey, Steve. Steve, who's going to zoom? He's calling in, Steve.
Adam, what did you find out?
He's calling in. I just gave him a login password.
I just happened to catch it. I overdid the room, termites, everything else died. So anything that might have been any stage of anything, because the room had been during COVID, just a storage room. Hey, my room was almost ready for company. The room I said I wasn't gonna have anything over till I unloaded it. We're all getting close.
Adam, could you speak louder, please? We can barely hear you.
Festivities. I've been lacking on them. in my home. Comfortable.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes. Would you find out anything from Ash?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. It was pulling from my my wireless headphones, I think. So I got different ones in now. Yes, yeah, Ash should be signing in right now.
So he's doing it remotely?
Yeah, he's gonna be remote.
Okay.
I just sent him the yeah, there it looks like, yeah, that might be him.
We need a recording secretary and we can get started.
But I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Okay, Adam, what we got on the agenda is a couple things on consent, should take about a minute. And then
Okay.
we have an application, and I'm thinking that'll probably go about 5 minutes. So you probably got about 7, 8 minutes before we get to you, once we start.
Okay. All right, I'll just sit tight. And I'm here when I'm needed.
Did you all get the email from Paul? Yeah.
You're good to go and recommend the order. You're already live on YouTube. So.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Adam, we got comments from our architectural consultant on your consult. Did I send those to you today?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm going to try through the miracles of technology to get into my work email and forward that to you, so stand by.
Okay.
Did she run downstairs for anything or?
Yep, she was in the little secretary's room. I said that on YouTube. Folks, let me excuse myself in my office for just a minute. I'll get forward that email to Paul sent.
There's something off.
Guess we won't get done in 10 minutes.
Wait a minute. I don't mean to be an idiot, but what is
Where's
this?
the,
What is this?
let's watch.
2021 38, 2021 38, 41 North Potomac. North Potomac is not the Santa Claus building.
This is the sign, right, sign case. This is part of the initial.
I'm confused by the, that's like,
I think the,
referencing the days and years in this document.
I think think our packets are screwed up.
Yeah.
I think it was done on a double-sided, and the original was probably double-sided, and then when it was
Okay.
printed, it was only, so we
Okay.
got every other page.
Okay, just,
where's the stamp?
that's what he said, he's probably,
Well, stuff is, I think,
something's with paper because,
I think it's all.
see this right here, this case number?
Mm.
It's referencing this building, but the case number goes to 44 North Potomac. That's not 44 North Potomac, that's downtown. So he thinks that they might like, it should be this way, and that this is irrelevant. Something.
Let's say like the first page of a packet, and then the second page should have been the very first consent agenda item, and it's missing the very first piece. So when it was copied, it was a double-sided sheet, and it got copied as single-sided,
Okay.
and it's not.
Because this should just go, this is when deciding, it's the same thing.
That's because the first two were, I think, sign applications, or whatever it was, it picked up.
Oh, I got
It
you.
just picked that up, so
Yeah, because online it looked cleaner.
Okay, Adam, I emailed it to you.
I don't know if I don't know if I have that. still.
Okay.
No.
I might be able to hold on. All right, we got everybody. I think we're ready to start. Apologize for the delay. All right. My name is Michael Ginner, as Chair. I call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Historic District Commission to order this 28th day of October 2021. There is a quorum present. The roster of the staff to the commission, of the commission members, and the technical posts that they filled in accordance with the requirements of the Hagerstown zoning ordinance are on file with the city of Hagerstown, are available on request of any applicant, and are hereby made a part of the legal record of each and every application heard today. All decisions are rendered or based on the Secretary Interior Standard and Guidelines as adopted by the city of Hagerstown. Each decision is made on a case-by-case basis and not intended to be precedent setting. If you have any electronic devices, please make sure they've been silenced. Please note that we are broadcast live on YouTube. So there are two types of cases. We have consent agenda and design review. For the consent agenda, I'll ask anybody in our audience if they have any issues with those particular cases. If they do not, then I'll ask commission members if they have any issues with any of those consent agenda items. If there are no issues with any of those particular cases, we will blanket approve those cases, and those applicants will be free to leave the meeting. For design reviews, when your case is called, please come to the table and join with the commission. For the record, please state your name and address. There will be a brief synopsis of your application by our staff consultant. After that, the floor will then be turned over to the applicant for any further elaboration on that particular case. After that, the floor will then be open for discussion by the commission members prior to rendering a decision on that particular application. At this time, we have no minutes for approval. Next up is the consent agenda items, HDC case 2021-36 for 115 West Washington Street for a grant approval for the repairs to the rear of the building and approval of projecting sign. And also HDC case 2021-38 for 441 North Potomac Street for a sign. I take it we have nobody in our audience that would speak out against those particular cases. Hearing none, commission members, any concern with these particular items on our consent agenda item? All right, by the silence, I assume that we are good for approval of those two particular cases. Somebody's gonna make a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the materials submitted in cases HDC 2021 Tech 36 and HDC 2021 Tech 38 and their associated staff reports and recommendations. I reviewed the properties in question. The staff reports recommend approval of these applications as consistent with the applicable standards adopted by this commission, and no one has appeared at this hearing with concerns about issues with or objections to these applications. Therefore, I move that this commission adopt the staff evaluation and recommendations in these cases as its own and grant certificates of appropriateness to the applicants for cases HDC 2021 Tech 36 and HDC 2021 Tech 3A.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, those applicants would be free to go at this time if they were here. And I don't know if we have anybody else joining us on.
Actually, one of the applicants is here for the workshop later.
Okay, so I didn't know who else was on Zoom at this point. Or if we had any other commission members on Zoom at this point. Next up is design review case HDC 2021-37 for 1002 Oak Hill Avenue for a fence. If you could please state your name and address, sir.
Hi, my name is David McGinley, property owner 1002 Oak Hill Avenue in Hagerstown.
Okay, this is HTC case 2021-37. The applicant was Laura Braden, who is the permits person for the fence company. Property owner is David McGinley. Property is located at 1002 Oak Hill Avenue in the Oak Hill Historic District. Building is a B resource. It contributes to the character of the district, but is not likely to qualify for National Register listing individually. Photographs of the property are shown on page 1 of your staff report. First photograph is the front of the building as it's viewed from Oak Hill Avenue. This is a corner lot, and the fence is proposed to be in the rear yard along the northern side property line adjacent to an adjacent house, plus along the back property line. The other side of the property is a side street of Hillcrest Avenue, which we provided a photograph of that area as well, showing the extensive vegetation and physical circumstances there. The applicant proposes to install a 6-foot tall board-on-board privacy fence along the interior northern side property line and along the alley. This is a corner lot with Hillcrest Avenue being the side street. The rear yard is heavily vegetated, but part of the fence will be partially visible from Hillcrest. Staff doesn't have a recommendation. The design of the fence is appropriate. The design guidelines recommend wood and does not list vinyl as a preferred material. The commission will just need to determine whether the visibility circumstances in this case warrant deviating from the recommended guidelines and permitting vinyl at this location. Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 and 10 apply. In your packet, you have a plot plan from the fence company showing the existing buildings on the property and surrounding with the dark line showing the location of where the fence will be located. It will not be located parallel to Hillcrest Road, and a elevation of what the general design of the fence will look like, plus a photograph of the same or similar product at some other location. And Mr. McGinley is here. Basically, the reason why this didn't go on consent is because they're proposing vinyl instead of wood.
Sir, anything to add to that?
Sure, that the vinyl is going to be white, which will match very nicely with all the trim around the property and the white Corinthian columns on the wraparound front porch. And also vinyl does not decay, which is why we would like it. So it will not become a derelict fence should I fail to do my duty and seal it every year. So that was the goal, is to be low maintenance, look sharp. And we limited it to 56 feet along the alleyway. So just to point out, there is an elevation when the driveway rises to the carriage house. The trim on the carriage house is also white. So it's not directly on the fence, but it's going to be 8-foot setback from where the sidewalk is on Hillcrest, so that one, we can see and other people can see in and out of the road.
Commission members, concerns, comments?
The problem that we have is that each case stands on its own merit. There's no precedent setting, so we have to validate why we would deviate from our guidelines, which direct our board. So we don't recommend vinyl as a source material. So if you could help us beyond deterioration and maintenance, that would assist in that.
The staff could clarify, everybody in the historic district could make that argument. What's unique about your property that would justify using vinyl as far as visibility and things like that? Because the argument of durability and all that kind of stuff, maintenance, literally used by every property in the district.
Mm-hmm. And that is a historic
Yeah, the
commission
guidelines are
guideline.
our rule book, so to speak, that we follow.
Gotcha. That the aesthetic fits with, that vinyl fits as an aesthetic since it looks like wood. Also, the heavy vegetation is no longer there and is removed, just so everyone's, I don't know if that's a thing, but
Thanks, I wasn't aware of that.
yeah, that's okay. And I also blocked the house from visibility on Google Maps. But in any case, we replanted along Hillcrest fresh vegetation, but there's no longer any vegetation running on that driveway side. So right now it's dirt ready to have a fence installed.
How much from the public right of ways, linear feet, do you think can be seen with your plan? Like if you're going to replace higher vegetation to cover the fence, how much space do you see in when it all comes in?
So the question is who's seeing the fence
From
and
any public right of way?
And I don't have the,
Yeah. I don't know.
unfortunately, I don't have the sketch here in front of me. But as I recall, looking at the application, the fence was only it's proposed along the backside of the alley and then up the left-hand side, which would be the interior away from the street.
That's correct. The closest this fence will be to Hillcrest is 8 feet according to McGinley. And
what, 12 feet, eight to the sidewalk and then another 4
Gotcha.
with the sidewalk.
it'll be 8 feet from the sidewalk. And it's not going to parallel. It's not going to be like a wall along Hillcrest. Basically, what you're going to see is 8 feet back. You're going to see a corner post
Right, no, I understand that.
running back along the alley.
Okay, but understanding what he just said earlier and having just walked past it not too long ago today, he's removed a lot of your vegetation along Hillcrest. So the fence would be visible looking across, if you're standing on Hillcrest looking across the site. Do you plan to put any more vegetation back along the Hillcrest area?
Well, so those euonymus, my landscaper has informed me in 4 years should be, the goal is that they're a thick giant wall,
Okay,
much like our neighbors.
I know you're taking the shrubs out.
I'm sorry, I don't know you all personally, but if you live in the neighborhood, you obviously know where,
Yeah.
the gentleman who lives on the terrace corners, both of those houses, same plant, it's going to be a giant wall of green. So no one should be able to see it eventually. And as you hopefully saw, which I'm hoping turns out nice, we planted them as well right in front of the giant sycamore.
Yeah.
So that will close even
Right.
more visibility.
So just
So it's a
everybody
temporary problem, but it's like the
Right.
goal is that.
in time, it will,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
hidden again. I mean, it was hidden up until a couple of weeks ago when the shrubs were removed.
Okay,
It'll take a year or two to start growing back in to really block the visibility on the far property side at this point.
Right. And are we only discussing, just so I'm clear as to regulation, is the only issue the stretch from the garage, the 56 feet? And the
It's,
others that are deeply inset and against the neighbor's property are not an issue?
Would you like me to explain that?
you can, you'd probably be a little bit better at it than I would be right now.
Any changes to the exterior property in the historic district requires review by this board. One of the things that they take into consideration is how visible it is from public ways. If it's something that's entirely invisible or very minimally visible, they will hold it to a lower standard. So in this case, the fence, depending on where on the fence you're talking about, is visible from public ways, some parts more so than others, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And can I ask a question? I know we've had this issue. A public way, is an alley considered a public
the
way?
alley is not considered a public way. Generally, what this board has used in the past is public streets and public open spaces like parks.
So to pare this down to bare minimum, it's the post 12 feet from the street, 8 feet from the sidewalk is what we're really talking about then.
It is those parts of the fence that are readily visible from Oak Hill Avenue or Hillcrest. And that's depends on the
Yeah.
angle and all, you know.
I did just snap photos. If you all are okay with it, I'm happy to walk up and show you new photos from today, if you'd like to see them
I
on my
would,
phone.
please.
I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing, we have somewhat consensus, to
Just
keep
want to
it
be
move
sure that
forward.
I'm not trying to-
So I think in the motion, if we're looking to approve, we would need to indicate that, in time, the shrubbery along Hillcrest had been
That chain
removed,
link
has
fence?
just been removed and it'll be replaced and it will grow back in and it will,
That's currently in the big
Okay.
stretch. So I'm replacing it with beautiful white. Then, so this is on my back deck looking down. That's the alleyway.
Okay.
That's where there's no foliage. So this is, I've got this big bush and it'd be from my garage here down to the run. And then this is the new planting of euonymus that's going to grow into a big.
So what, so what is
Regulation.
April, so what do I see if I'm standing right here then?
This is looking out toward Oak Hill
Right,
Avenue,
so where's the fence going?
behind us. Along this wall. So that is, if I'm.
Oh, the.
Do you have one?
yeah, the fence would come up right into the corner of the house.
Got the drawing up there.
Well,
So-
corner of the carriage house.
You can
Oh, you can
run
write on.
our packet.
It's something that was printed. So, the property on Crest is this.
Drawing shows
From your house.
Huh?
There's an alley.
Drawing
here.
shows the corner. right?
Yeah, the corner of the house. I mean, the only time you would see a brief glimpse if you were standing on Oak Hill right between the houses, but
And then there's
I
a
don't-
wall here that rises to about 3 feet in elevation. The fence would be on that wall, 8'7" from the driveway,
Mhm.
going up to the carriage house.
So you would see this fence though from here
You would see it from there
until that greenery
temporarily,
grows up.
but there is a giant sycamore tree here and a big bush here.
And where, I'm sorry, where's Oak Hill on this side?
Oak Hill is 180 feet
Okay.
or whatever over there.
Okay.
So this is the current.
Is that it, Mike?
Yeah.
yeah, that's the diagram.
This is my garage, the fence with the Oak Hill is behind us. Oak Crest
This
is
is
over
obviously the
here.
alley.
It's the, yeah, it's the Oak Hill residence that I worry about and the visibility there,
And
but I think it's minimal.
This tree, this big bush
The alley
is
doesn't matter.
here from the Hillcrest angle. And these are euonymus. I just reset this hedgerow so it would be nice and thick.
But this is the
And
alley,
this
so
is
that's really
Oak
not.
Crest.
Yeah, it's,
And then-
it's nothing.
So eventually.
So it's
these
across
grow.
the yard, basically.
Hopefully very quickly.
All right.
Keep watering them.
Yes.
Keep watering them.
3 hours. That's all that matters.
All right. So I think we all have agreement. I think you would just state in the motion that, right now, the fence is visible, but with the short period of time, the landscaping along Hillcrest will block the visibility of the fence. I don't think anywhere else we have as much of an issue with that. So
The landscape is already there. It just needs.
it just needs to be grown. Yeah. It was just replaced this past couple weeks. So. So who wants to?
I got the thing, I'm just, looking at what's the number?
Oh,
Oh, then,
it's, yeah, the cases are.
hang on. HDC case 2021-37.
Okay. Okay,
Oh, and sorry, I should say for the record, we will plant additional plantings in the 8-foot gap after the fence is there, assuming you approve the fence.
Okay.
But the goal is to put shrubbery that's low lying so people can see to drive, but it will be more greenery there. And I'm saying that on the record. We will plant more stuff.
okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I've inspected the project plans and the property in question and have constructed in accordance with these plans. The project is compatible with the character of the district for the reasons that the project's already planted landscaping, proposes additional landscaping. Because of this, it's generally in harmony with the architectural design guidelines for residential design preservation design districts and the character of the adjoining properties. Therefore, I move that HDC grant a certificate of appropriateness to the applicant for case number HDC 2021-37.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As opposed, motion carries.
And who seconded that? Pleasant.
All right,
You done?
you're good.
Good to go. All right.
You're good.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And have you applied for your fence company applied for your fence permit, so we can sign off. Okay, thanks.
All right, next up is a workshop. For the,
Mr. McKinley, if you could do me a favor and email me those photographs, so I can print them off and have them in the file since they were discussed. Thank you.
workshops, the Shockey Building at 26 to 30 Summit Avenue.
Okay, we have Adam Carballo, the architect, with us, I assume, as well as the property owner, Ashizadi. They've asked for a workshop to discuss some plans that they have for the Shockey Building and the adjacent building to the south of it, which is also under their ownership. You received copies of the plans, the elevations, et cetera. I also, in the staff, in your mail out package, I provided a memo, which I'll enter into the record by reference. I'm not going to read this in word for word, but it's got 9 points, some of which really are not your issues, but I used the memo as a way of putting the applicant on notice about certain things. If they go through with this process, 2 or 3 of them are more site plan issues more than anything. Your architectural consultant, Dr. Reed, could not be here today, but she sent an email summarizing her observations on it. Did you all get a chance to review that today?
I did. Was it conclusive whether or not it was a property historically registered with the MHD?
We can't find anything. No, it's a contributing building to the downtown historic district, but it is it's not going to be eligible for national register listing individually. We don't have an architectural report on the property. I did some initial sleuthing on it, tried to find something out about it, and there really just isn't much out there on the property. I mean, I could do a deed search and find out who owned it, but essentially it was a house. Initially, I thought it might have been possibly the parsonage for the Episcopal Church, because the Episcopal Church used to be on that block before the fire in 1871, when the church burned and it was rebuilt up on Prospect Street. But the more I'm looking at other sources, I'm thinking it probably actually was not the parsonage. That gives me even less information than I had when I sent the memo out to you. Staff's perspective on that particular issue of that building is that architecturally, that thing has been messed up more times than we can count, and nobody's ever going to restore it at that location for its original intended use or anything similar, being a single family home. So essentially, if it's required to stay, it really wouldn't be anything more than really what you see it today, because I just don't see anybody putting money in to restore the facade or do things that are more historically compatible in the district. As far as, like I said, I'm not going to go over the agenda one by one or the items in the memo. But a couple things that we did note is they ought to see what they can do about preserving the sign that's on the Shockey building. That is part of the character of the building. And also with all of the dwelling units that are going to be in this building, they ought to seriously consider exploring a rooftop deck to have the residents of all these almost 30 units have some place to go outside, but on their property, because there's not going to be any balconies here. The building essentially will occupy just about the entire lot. So they may want to consider doing some sort of rooftop deck to give the residents some outdoor space. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Carballo.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Is it possible to share my screen so I can go over the drawings, or at least?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, give me a minute to figure that out.
Okay. I think you'll have to make me host, is I think what'll have to happen. And I'm assuming everyone has a sort of printout of our drawings, or possibly be able to see us on the screen.
Most of them. We don't have all of them.
Okay.
All right, I'm showing that it says you are screen share.
Okay.
That means if you put something up when you're in.
If you go to participants and then just, go down to and highlight our name and just say make host, then I'll be able to share the PDF of the presentation.
Hit the more button. Yeah.
This is the address.
All right, there we go. Okay. Is this visible in a useful way?
We can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so thanks for that introduction, Steve. Just for orientation purposes, this red boundary line encompasses the three property addresses, 28, 30, and 32 Summit Street, which comprises of the Shockey building as well as that adjoining, shorter former residential structure just to the southwest. This is approximately a block away from West Washington Street, sort of Main Street gone through. And then there's a large parking lot to the south of our site that is sort of slated for redevelopment for a structured parking that would support the stadium that's coming soon. Front of the building, as Steve mentioned, we have the two sort of taller structures, the 4-story structures that encompass the Shockey building, and then this sort of hodgepodge to the south that is a former residential property that is also under the same ownership. Our goals for this building is really to, on the front, restore the building back to its sort of original condition. We do intend on keeping the Shockey sign. It's a sort of a hallmark of the building. It's very well known. It's actually a great looking sign. The scale of it is really very interesting, and I think we want to sort of clean that up and keep it and retain the name Shockey going forward. In addition to that, we have 2 storefronts with center entrances, and we want to maintain those and restore those and use these as retail spaces, or either one space or 2 spaces on the ground floor. The nice thing about these, which is that they're actually step free and are able to support ADA access, which you don't really find that often in a historic structure. So that's sort of a happy accident that these existing storefronts have that feature.
Adam, are you going to need to reglaze the windows?
On the storefront or on the upper floors?
On the storefront.
I don't know if we will or not. I believe they are single pane glass. We may actually just take the glass out and replace it. But the frame, the fascia that's above the sign band, the cornice, all of those elements, I think that we can just kind of restore in place. You wouldn't have to actually pull anything out and rebuild, at least not on a large scale.
Okay, the reason why I ask is we ran into that in a similar project recently where the glass was so old it didn't meet current building codes or something like that. So I just thought I would ask.
I mean, it most likely does not meet the energy code currently. But we have to, again, we're sort of early days. We're going to have to explore that and see what our options are. But our intention.
I was thinking from the standpoint of shatterproof, that kind of thing.
Oh, with respect to I'm sure it's not tempered glass.
Okay.
So we may have to, remove those panes, but as far as like where the frame is, we're intent on, replicating or at least returning back to, these openings.
Got it.
So our proposal is to, retain the ground floor as retail, the upper 3 floors, convert those to apartments, and then consolidate this property with the neighboring property. We would like to demolish this building and use this as a as our main point of entry for the residents, and have a step-free entrance off of the sidewalk of Summit Street. I have some existing plans which show the current layout of the building. I believe, it is used as some type of warehouse or, and it was, I think, later used as office space or partially used as office space. So we would, pull all of the existing partitions out. And on the ground level, we would have either one or two retail spaces. These could easily be combined into one larger space. And we would provide for a new residential entrance at the south end with a lobby and reception area, and really connect these buildings together and provide a number of apartments on each floor. We would utilize one of the existing interior staircases. We would provide a new and as well as retaining the existing elevator shaft. We would obviously just restore that, and we'd provide a new fire stair on the other end. As the building sort of rises, we would, add additional units as we go up. And we do have a plan to connect to the proposed parking garage by way of a bridge that would connect directly into the building, either on the second or third floor above.
Have you discussed that with the city engineer's office at all, or is that a new idea that nobody's really explored yet, other than you all considering it?
This is a new idea that we've come up with. We haven't explored it formally yet, but if there's a way, that would be, I think, obviously a big convenience to the residents of the building. But that is something that we'd like to pursue.
I just wanted to check to see where you might be in it. I mean, we've done it before with the garage behind Bulls and Bears. So
Right.
connecting
Yeah.
into adjacent buildings. So
But yeah, we have a sort of a natural place that we can connect in, that, I think, in theory could work. We just have to sort of obviously work out some details. As we sort of rise up the building, we sort of stack these apartments all the way up. We end up having 39 apartments altogether. And over the 4 floors. It's interesting that you mentioned the idea about a roof deck. We have 2 staircases, we have an elevator. We would prefer to continue those up to the roof and either provide an amenity space for the residents of the building up there, or we've actually also talked about some type of commercial use on the roof, kind of similar to sort of a Wrigleyville sort of element, with possibly like a small bar or something up there that would support the new stadium. Still kind of an early concept, but I think it could be a really, really great opportunity to have a commercial use, especially in the downtown area, and then also adjacent not only to the stadium but the parking, where we could have people gain access to the roof maybe via the elevator, and the sort of connected bridge to have some sort of retail space or entertainment space on the upper floor, or on the roof, that is. So that's where we are. It's, again, we're sort of at a conceptual design at this point, and basically wanted to sort of present it formally to get feedback, and any comments or comments you have would be appreciated.
Great. Commission members. Comments, concerns?
So this is very preliminary. Because this all has to go before the planning commission and stuff too.
what will happen is you got a number of things. They're going to need a site plan, and they're going to need a subdivision plat that would go through the planning commission and be approved by them. And then, of course, because it's an historic district, any changes to the buildings or the construction of new building demolition are subject to review and approval by this body, and your decisions are independent of the planning commission and vice versa. But it is this is the first we've seen of it. We had heard that they were discussing this for a while, but as far as actual, hey, take a look at this, this is our first opportunity to comment on it. It's not an official application at this point. They're here seeking your guidance.
The reason I ask is I know we've mentioned various buildings in general discussions about owners taking care of their properties, and I know that this building has a condemnation sign on the door. Is it under condemnation now?
It is condemned, and just so we're clear what the term condemnation means, it just means it can't be occupied. It doesn't mean it's ordered down. It's nowhere near
Okay,
a condition that it would need to be demolished. It just condemnation means you can't occupy it.
okay.
And I think it has something to do with the condition of the utilities in the building. Adam might be able to talk to that in more detail.
They're gonna shut the building down.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can't provide, if there's no boiler, the boiler shot or something like that, can't provide heat, they're gonna condemn the building because it's not livable in that sense, so.
Yeah, and I don't believe
Get an
there's,
idea. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Adam.
I don't believe there's, electric service at the building. So things like exit signs and emergency lighting for wayfinding, things like that are not present. So that's probably part of that.
Steve?
But
Steve,
Ash, you have some,
Yeah, this is Ash Azadi. The building is, does have an active sprinkler system that's being monitored, and it has, basic heat for the, well, it doesn't have heat, but it has electric, and it has a active sprinkler system.
stand corrected.
I just want, I have to throw this in there before we have any discussion. Because of the amount of fire runs we've had of late with people entering properties illegally, I'm assuming that while he's going through this process, that this building is secure. I noticed that there might be one small hole in the rear of the building that I noticed today that someone could gain access through, just so we don't end up with a fire or some other kind of usage, just because we've only encountered this recently in the town is seeing it, but also before the board, before we have any further.
Ash, did you hear that?
We're doing our best with the properties we have. I mean, I don't want to bring up 115 West Washington, but we have.
Just make sure it's secure, that's all. We just want to make sure nobody's gaining access that shouldn't be in the building.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
That side.
I had a couple questions. Obviously, the comments that came in from our consultant, for the record, just make sure when the application comes in, there's some documentation of the historic status of that particular building, that it's documented, that we have some background, there's some photos, that type of thing, just for record, keeping purposes. It's not looking to hold up the demolition by any means. It's just something that, we can go back and retrieve if somebody wanted to know something about that particular building at a later date, just as a,
Actually, Dr. Reed suggested that a individual property report be prepared,
yes.
Yes.
which is a bit more formal.
Yes.
And it would be entered into, recorded with the Maryland Historical Trust, and we would keep a copy of it in our office as well.
So,
That would involve researching the history of the property, doing deed searches, documenting the historic nature of it and its existing conditions.
Mhm.
They would probably need to hire a consultant to do that.
so, we certainly encourage that to be done now rather than last minute trying to get it through the process then.
Mhm.
So that was one item. The other,
And staff wanted to point out one thing based on what we heard Adam providing. The Shockey building right now, it's all retail on the first floor, and it's like empty warehouse, or it's warehouse space on the upper floors, which they're looking to convert into residential. And they mentioned that the main residential entrance would be in this addition. I didn't even think of that when I was looking at it earlier. He's right. If the addition does not go on, where do you put it? And they want to do upper floor residential in the existing building, the existing Shockey building. Where do you put an entrance to
Yeah.
that, based on the way this
You'd have to,
existing building's configured? So
you'd have to build up a little foyer, but
you'd have to provide another staircase, because you'd have to have two means of
Yeah.
egress.
yeah,
So, that would occur. And I don't see any issues as far as getting the addition to it. The one comment that I would have, looking at the plans compared to the elevations of the addition, you're showing a 3-bay window, and your plans right now are only showing basically a two windows per bay.
Yeah, we,
And that-
yeah.
If I could step in there for a second, in my initial contact with Dr. Reed, she mentioned that as well in an email back to me. I don't think that may have made it to her official email, but she has concern with that configuration of the 3-bank windows as well.
I'm just trying to figure out which way it's going, the addition with those banks of 3 windows seems like it's a little bit more open. Yes, it would be a newer addition, but you may want to just kind of downsize the amount of window to give it a little bit more brick space around that, a little bit more compatible with the Shockey building in and of itself.
Yeah, obviously these are very preliminary, so
Yeah.
we will do an extensive evaluation of the elevation. This was kind of a placeholder to show scale more than anything.
Are you anticipating, I guess, the property to the, I'm trying to think, I guess that's to the west side? That's a small building there now, or is that just an empty lot right now?
I mean, to the south?
I guess to the south, yeah, further up Summit, moving away from the city core.
It's a 1-story building that's a storefront. I think it's got an art shop or something in it.
Yes. just
Okay.
within the gallery.
So are you, the long wall, I guess, would be the south elevation. Are you anticipating, once you get above that building, are you anticipating any window fenestration along that side there?
We're not planning on any right now. Generally, you don't put windows on a shared property line.
Which is probably a good thing because there's nothing, if somebody wanted to buy that 1-story building, tear it down and build a 5-story tall building,
Right.
there's nothing preventing them from doing that. And it would be blocking in the windows that Adam would be designing into.
No,
into this
understood.
addition.
Which kind of leads me to the next question. And in the interim, then, if that stays a 1-story building, what do you see as a finished treatment? Or what would you propose? Do you have you given any thought to what the materials on that side and say the rear of the property?
It would most likely be either brick or stucco or some other type of material, but we haven't gotten that far yet. Again, this is a sort of a very early concept plan and elevation. So we're a little ahead of ourselves, I think, for specific details, but obviously those are all design elements we have to further develop and present.
Adam, I noticed on the first floor on the addition, the front of the building is a dwelling unit.
That's our current configuration, correct?
Right, and which is fine. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I noticed that the windows on the front of the building have a rather commercial feel to them. I don't know if that's necessarily an issue or not, but I would point that out to the commission for discussion. There's long, tall windows on the first floor elevation of the addition, and then what's going to be behind them is somebody's dwelling unit.
Somebody's what?
Dwelling unit.
Yeah.
We did
Apartment.
try to, I am showing a planter as like a placeholder that would provide some separation so someone can't easily just kind of put their face up against the glass and look in. But obviously there's always, curtains. It's not completely unusual to have a dwelling unit on the ground floor, and some people prefer it on the ground floor. But that, we'll have to make some type of treatment. And the planter was an idea to sort of provide some type of setback and some type of separation from the actual sidewalk.
Do check the zoning ordinance because there are setback or there, I should say, build to lines for new construction in the downtown. I think this will comply with it, but just double check what the build tos are in the downtown district.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I guess I'll say, in light of the fact, I guess this is just a preliminary, let's just take a look. I certainly think this is something I could support. One, there's an effort to maintain the historical integrity of the Shockley building. And then the other building, make it historic looking, and based on our prior experience with a demolition request that had financial issues, and then of course there wasn't definitive plans, this one would have that. So I think it would meet both of those criteria.
Right.
So I think on the surface, I think this is the type of effort you want to see.
And just so we're clear on the demolition, they're not arguing financial hardship here. It's not that type of demolition. This is, we're proposing a new
Right.
building, and this building is just not part of the plan.
But you could easily argue financial hardship, I think, because you could never, ever make this in a single family home and hope to get your money back out of the cost to do that.
Right.
I think it's a good plan. Any concerns, not that we look at as far as HTC, I mean, parking wise, we don't have any parking really on the lot in and of itself. I assume you'll try to, obviously with the connection to the parking deck, you would be able to secure parking for the tenants. Or you seeing this as more of a rental or more of a condominium type project?
I think we would hope to have some relationship with the parking garage. There are a few spaces in the back, but those are probably mostly for service and maintenance. We're also going to have a dumpster. Like we do have a trash room that we've incorporated as well as a trash chute. I believe we're aiming towards apartment for rental and also to support University of Maryland too. For housing for students.
It looks like you got a pretty good mix of different types of units.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, we have anywhere from we have some studios, we have some 2 bedrooms, and we also have some one bedroom. So we did want to make a mix, and you can kind of see on the upper floor where we have some sort of interior den, sort of like larger studios. We have also some nicer 2 bedrooms. And even our one bedrooms are in that 5 to 700 square foot range, which is a pretty generous 1 bedroom. And these have nice kitchens, full bathrooms, good storage, and also we'll have just because of the nature of the Shockey building, we'll have nice tall ceilings, and we'll feel really spacious. And I think they're going to be really nice apartments once they're built.
anybody else have any comments? All right.
So just so staff is clear, it sounds like as long as they can demonstrate that they can move forward with the project, that this body does not have a particular problem with the loss of that building to the new construction.
As long as we get some documentation in place. And did anybody want to take a look inside any of it prior to any work finalizing?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
The one to the right, not the Shockley
right.
building, but rather the house that would be gone.
Yeah.
And-
But in
so-
principle, yes. I have
In
no problem with
principle,
it.
it
Yeah.
sounds like there's nothing going to be standing in the way of the demolition then. Okay. And then the details we can work out later, such as once they come in for a certificate of appropriateness, you could write in a condition that the documentation be provided to MHT standards before the demolition permit is issued, that kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah, and then maybe take it just to. talk
Yeah.
through.
Because we'd like to see it because we answered for it, and it's good to make sure that it's all complete.
I have found that building a rather intriguing because of the lack of information I was able to find on it. Maybe something more could be found once somebody does a deed search, but I have a pretty good fix on most of the buildings downtown, and this one's just kind of a hole of information. I mean, just not a whole lot out there.
Great. You guys have any other questions?
Actually, I have something to say. So we mentioned that there's not going to be much open space on the property because that takes up the whole space and there's 30, and you said, we suggested maybe doing some kind of open space on the rooftop.
Mhm.
And I think you suggested like a bar, kind of like Wrigley Field, which I think is a cool idea. Or also some kind of like open space with maybe like sculptures or something that we need to, I think.
Yeah, the only thing in the design guidelines when it comes to rooftop improvements is that you shouldn't be able to see them from the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street. Given the height of the Shockey building and the addition that'll go onto it, you won't have to set it far back on the roof before it'll start disappearing to the pedestrian on the other side of Summit.
Yeah, and there, the elevator and, existing flue or chimney extends up higher than the building line, as you can see in this section. If you stand across the street, you'll never see this. So we would end up, extending it out further, but this would mostly be an open air thing, maybe with an awning or some type of pergola or some type of small roof. But we can do a sightline study to sort of prove that estimation when we get a little further in.
Cool.
Does he think
Good. Adam, Ash, you got anything else?
I don't think so.
No, I don't. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I'll mess and get back to you.
thank you.
All right, guys,
Look
thanks.
forward to it.
All
All
right,
right,
thanks.
thanks again.